but I can see now. Hi, Julie. Yay. Linda, hi. Ah, what a relief. Yay, I can see everybody now. Okay, that's good. So I'm just gonna, I'm so sorry. Um, for the last two videos that I did, I didn't know what happened to the chat had gone away. So, so what I think happened is that my settings, I had to, one of those updates to the app, and I had to install again. And I think when that happened, my chat got somehow reset and it wasn't there. So, and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't showing. So finally, I think that's solved. And I'm glad. Yay. Marcia, Julie, Linda, welcome. So anyways, this is the tile I was doing earlier. And I will continue that later. But because I started doing this, and this is the cup, I started doing this one because it's actually the cup that is on the cover on the page that I just put as the cover for this video. And I put like a daylily here, a design that I just sketched it up. And then it has like, you know, tropical plants all around. There is a hibiscus here. It's very similar to that one. And I was going to try to use sort of the same colors. That one was very popular with the black background. And I used tuxedo for the black. And this is, let me just show it again because I know I had it on the video before. So what I was doing now is testing a new oxide. And this one is manganese dioxide. Which looks more like a brown, like a real dark brown color. And I want to see what's the difference between this one and the black iron oxide is what I usually use. So this is new to me. I just picked this up at my local pottery supplier, Davins. A shout out to Davins. They're great over there. I buy most of my stuff over there. 90% of everything I have, I buy from them. Anyways, this is manganese mixed with this oil, which is a polymerized linseed oil. And I will put everything on the description, everything that I'm using here. As usual, that video that I had earlier is not going to be, I'm not going to put that one on because it was just horrendous. Anyways, I just wanted to show you guys at least the flower because this is a very time-consuming process, the painting. And it takes me a few hours doing the whole mug. But you guys will be able to see. I usually post it in time-lapse mode because it takes so long. So you guys will be able to see that it is slow. So you can't rush through these things. But I do find it very satisfying to paint. And it is going very a lot smoother in this surface than on the tile. Just for you guys to know, there is a difference, right, between the surface that you're painting. So the tile, as I mentioned earlier, it's very the surface is kind of grainy. So you could make your own tile. That one, I just bought it for the class. It's a little rough, the surface. I don't know why, but it's a low-fire tile. But I can see already the difference, you know. The brush just glides so much better. on this one. And this is speckled bee mix that I'm using here, which I'm in love with this clay. And if you do, paint with stroke and coat on this one, on this clay, it does show the specks through it, through the glaze. I think I'm able to drag the oil a little bit longer on this one than I was able to on the tile, and I think it's just from having a smooth surface. I hope the lighting is okay. And I will post the results once I fire these. Again, these are tests for me as I teach Cuerda Seca, and I'm always testing different things, just like I changed the oil that I was using to this one that I found works so much better than the original one that I was using. I have tried different oils. One that I had success with was just using sesame seed oil, like the cooking oil that you use, sesame seed. I had good luck with that. But the problem with that, it never dries. This one doesn't dry completely either, because any oil you use, I know that's a question that I get frequently, is that it doesn't dry, and it doesn't completely dry because your oil is mixed in with an oxide, so it's a powder form. And what happens is the surface, even if the oil gets absorbed by the bisque, the powder is still on that surface, the powder is still there. So if you touch that, it will smear. And as I was saying before, you can use rubbing alcohol to remove the oil from unwanted areas, just with a little paper towel or a cloth. And that's why I keep my hand inside the mug. If it is a mug, just try different positions holding it, that you would avoid smearing your oil mixture, in other places. But at least I have done it before. No one is perfect. You will eventually, if you're not careful, you will touch it and you will smear in other areas, but at least you can remove it. Like I said, rubbing alcohol to me seems to be the one that works the best. It does get tricky in some areas, like bring it here. Depending on what you're painting, like this end right here, it gets a little tricky. And I'm already kind of smeared with the lead from the pencil, so, but that's not, with the lead, is you can glaze right over, it won't be a problem. The problem with the oil is that because it is almost like it acts like a resist, sometimes if you glaze over, if you don't remove it, you will show the spot. I was looking at some pictures earlier today for Oriental lilies, which is one of my favorites. Tiger lily, I think. This one is one of those real bright orange. I think that's just what it's called. It's just an orange lily. And it has these things here in the middle. And what I'm gonna do, because they are kind of small, I'm just gonna paint these, and they are brown, so I'm just gonna paint those just with the oxide, so then the glaze will go around it. And then it has some spots too, from what I remember seeing on the picture. Um, I have some of these on my garden, the bright yellow ones. They're so pretty. Just putting some lines here just to make the middle a little darker. Um, and this is the stem that's holding the flower. And like I was saying before, on the previous video, you don't have to wait, until it dries, because it really is not gonna dry completely anyway. So as soon as I finish painting, whatever I'm painting, I start glazing. Just gonna add this bud here from the same flower, but it hasn't been opened yet. I always like to look, I try not to do exactly what I see, but sometimes I even put plants that just comes from my imagination. But at times I like to at least use the same colors, and I like to use my like reference photos. But sometimes I deviate from making something exactly as I see. And I think that's okay. When I'm doing my frogs, I'm looking at a picture, especially to paint them the same colors that I see. But for plants, for some reason, sometimes I just go and use I don't know, something that I just imagine, some tropical plants, and I use some wild colors too, because there are purples and different colors. So just like I think this one here, I think on the previous mug I painted this plant right here, and I think I'm gonna use sort of the same colors. um, so on this one I'm gonna use I think I'm gonna make it yellow. I do have the orange here. So I have the two colors I'm gonna use, which is a little different than the one before, is jack-o'-lantern, and because it's orange, and cutie pie coral. And then I'm gonna make some dots with the darker, either brown or black. Just move this from here. So this is the cutie pie coral. I'm gonna put it closer to the center. And like I was saying before, making a vertical piece, it does take longer. So you have to be patient. Otherwise, it will drip, it will drip all the way around your piece. So because you are making it like you are applying a lot of glaze at once. So you have to be, careful with that. Let's see. I'm just now looking at the chat here. What would happen if you add grit to your manganese, linseed? Oh, frit, frit. So with this oil, that's a good question, because in the past I used frit when I used my when I was using the previous oil, which was sesame seed oil, to seal the surface. So the addition of frit is more to seal, because the mixture to seal that, like where your lines are. So if you're using just on the outside, I really don't think you need it. And I try not to use Cuerda Seca on the inside. Occasionally I have done some plates and I use the frit. So, which is, again, to seal, where your lines are. But what I found is that by using this oil, for some reason, it comes out real shiny. Like if I had added frit. So I am not sure. To me, it feels like it is sealed. I can't confirm that, but again, I'm only using that on the outside of a piece, just to make sure if you're doing a plate to use on contact with food, I would add the frit. So that's the purpose. Can you use a combo of underglaze with the oil for things like the dots on the petals? Yes, I have used the Mayco designer liner, which is like underglazes, and they are kind of thick. So I like to use that because it doesn't quite blend in with the glaze. So that's it's a real good choice to do, like when I do my chameleons, I usually put a lot of dots to kind of make almost like a texture. And I use the Mayco designer liner to make the dots. I've used that on mushrooms to make the white dots. It works really well. So whenever you have a bigger surface like that, that's when things can start dripping. So that's the part that you have to be a little bit more careful. And doing the background, of course, you just watch to see. What I do is once I see that the edges starts to dry a little bit, that means the glaze is already getting thicker. And it probably won't start to drip because you're working with a curved surface here. Sometimes I'll come with a third color and brush it on. So if I wanted this to have some yellow in the middle, which I think the daylilies have that yellow, almost like a yellow line in the middle, I'll wait until that dries and I come with the yellow color just with a brush and I do that middle that I'm saying. See, whenever you turn now, I can start seeing that here is starting to pull a little bit more in there. So those are the things you look for. And that's why when doing a tile, it's so much easier. Sometimes if I see that it's too much glaze, I just kind of dab with my finger like that and I remove some. And then I wait until it dries a little more and then I add a little bit more glaze in that spot. Because you don't want the glazes to be thin, right? Because that's, like I was saying before, the idea is for it to be thick and raised. So here you went over the line a little bit. It's better to wait. I always tell everybody to wait until it dries, because then you can just scrape it off. So I'm just demoing here for you to see how you clean up the area. The smaller the details you're adding, the harder it is to get into the little smaller areas. Bigger areas are much easier. Oops, you see how see now this one it went over. So that's a good example. I was going a little bit too fast. Usually I take my time, and here too. So that's a sign that I should have waited a little longer to let it dry more. But you see how you went over just the pencil. The problem when this happens is sometimes you had let's say if I had already done my line work here, then it's harder to clean up, right? See, it's dripping here too. So for example, okay, so here I already see that it's already starting to dry, so I don't have to worry as much here. And I'm just gonna dab. So here you went over my line, as you can see right there. So, and it's already drying up, so I'm just gonna scrape. Cleans right out, just the glaze. So you don't want to scrape too hard because you don't want to remove your mixture, right, with the oxide. So you do it light enough to just scrape over the glaze and not your line work. Hi, Marcia. Yeah, it's manganese, not magnesium. It's manganese, and yes, manganese is more toxic, especially like even if you're mixing it. I use masks anyways for anytime I'm mixing any glaze or anything. You have to wear a mask, because even if you think it's just a small amount that you're using, but you don't want to breathe that stuff. And yes, I wouldn't even suggest doing cuerda seca that much for something that you use on the inside of a pot. Again, I like using it mostly for outside. And the plate that I've done in the past, that I think it was a snowman plate, more like a Christmas. It was, I did use frit. And yes, I will try to investigate more on that if it is, if even with frit, if it is food safe. I'm not sure myself. So whenever I'm not sure of something, I just rather not use it, for inside of like a plate or something like that. And also because I add water to all my glazes, um, you have to see if it is not too thin. The ideal is not too thin and not too thick, because if it is too thick, it goes over the oil doesn't resist the glaze as well. It resists more when it is thinner, because like oil and water don't mix, right? So, but if it is too thin and using here on a rounded cup like this one, then it goes, it's more chances of dripping. So when it is like that, too thin, and you still want the raised effect, wait until um, it dries more, and then add a little more. And it will blend in. Even if I add more, another coat of the glaze using the same color, it will just blend in and you won't see it. And this is the green that I mentioned that I really like, is the Leaping Lizard. It's one of my favorites. If you like the darker green, the Just Froggy is also a nice dark green color. Sometimes I use it like to half of a leaf, I do one color. And then the other half I do like a darker green. So this one is Just Froggy right here. You see it gives like a nice contrast on making a leaf. Yeah. And so here, all I'm gonna do to clean that up is with the sponge, and then I just kind of retouch up my sketch that I have going around. So I'm just gonna continue painting these today, and I will post the results. So so Julie's asking if on a plate, is it food safe? It's what I was saying before. I rather not use it on a plate, especially with the manganese, because from what I hear, manganese is more toxic than the black iron oxide. They always say to use frit if you're doing cuerda seca on a plate or something that is going to be used for food contact. But I try not to. I try to always do my cuerda seca on the outside, so just to be safe. But I will look it up about the manganese, especially because it's something new that I'm using. In fact, this is the first piece that I do with manganese dioxide is what I'm using here, which I think is what it's used on clay to make the dots, the speckled. That's usually manganese that you see on a clay body. But anyways, that's it, guys. And sorry again for my previous video that it was so bad. I will post this one, so if you guys want to go over and rewatch it. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for being patient with me. I will put all the links and everything that I used, all the materials that I use for Cuerda Seca. So thanks again, guys, and I'm glad the chat is back